Hello, everyone. In this video, we are going to deploy a Kubernetes cluster onto Equinix bare metal servers using Rafay's SaaS-based Kubernetes management cloud solution. So the first thing you need to do here is to register and create an account with Equinix. So I've already created one, and once you've got your credentials, you can just click on the login button here. And once you're logged in, you'll see that you don't have really any servers yet. So what I'm going to do is go to the servers pull down menu here and click on demand servers. And what I'd like to do is select a location. So I prefer using Dallas. And let's go down here, select the C3 small. That's only 50 cents an hour, so good for testing purposes. And it's still pretty powerful. As you can see, it's going to have about 16 cores on this processor, and it's got 32 gig of RAM. So more than enough resources for our needs. Moving down to the operating system section here. So you want to choose a operating system that's supported by Rafay. So in this case, we'll go with Ubuntu 1804. And you can select any number of servers. So how many copies of this particular server do you want deployed? And for our test purposes, we'll just go with one. You can give it a custom host name if you like. I'm just going to go with the defaults. And just go down here, review the data. So we got the location, which is in Dallas, one bare metal server, which is a C3 small, Ubuntu 1804 as our operating system, and it's only 50 cents an hour. Click on the Deploy Now button. And what's happening now is it started provisioning these servers, and you'll be presented with this particular screen here that gives you an idea as to what the IP address is going to be when this server is provisioned. So just to show you what you'll need to do is SSH into that server. So I'm just going to bring my SSH window here. So we got a terminal, and let's just do an SSH, or let's just run a netcat command, ZV, that IP address. And let's do the SSH port 22. And you can see that it's not responding yet. So obviously the server has not been deployed. So what I'm going to do now is wait for the deployment to complete. Let's pause the video and I'll be back in a few minutes. Okay, we're back. So that was pretty quick. You can see here in our netcat command that the connection test was successful. And just looking at the UI, you can also see here that there's a green little dot here, which means that the server's been provisioned. So let's click on this server just to take a look at some of its details. So what you'll see here at the top is that there is a SSH root password that's valid for 24 hours. So you can click on this little icon that's giving you the password if needed. But what I've noticed is if I go to SSH here, you can copy this command, and let's go back into our SSH window. And if I paste that into here, I should be able to log in. Say yes, we trust it. And look at that, we are in the server. So we're ready for step 2. Let's log into the Rafay console. So what's cool here is that we can actually go to the Rafay website, and there is a login button here at the top. So click on login, and I assume you already have credentials. So you would use your credentials, log in, and you would be presented with the various projects that may exist in your environment. For our purposes, let's create a new project. I'll just call this the Equinix project, and let's make that lowercase. Click create, and there's our project. So we'll just drill down into the project. So a project is just a logical grouping of multiple clusters. Okay, so we don't have any clusters yet, but we are going to deploy our first cluster onto that Equinix server, the bare metal server that we deployed. So I'm going to click on new cluster, and we're creating a new one, which is selected. So again, trying accept all defaults where possible. So let's go with the data center edge in this case, and we will pick the Linux installer and choose the Upstream Kubernetes. Okay, so that's what we're going to deploy. These are the settings that are required. Let's give this cluster a name. Okay, so this is the main screen here that we're going to fill out a simple form. So it's all wizard driven. And once you enter the information in here, let's start with the location. So I can do a search here. And this is not required, right? So this will just give us some labeling capability so that we can label that cluster. So if we have multiple clusters and you want to do some logical grouping, then you know the different locations where you actually deployed, let's say, your bare metal servers. Okay, so what version of Kubernetes would you like to deploy? Here's the operating system. So you have to make sure that you chose this matches the operating system that you actually deployed on the servers that you provisioned. And for our purposes, the only change you're going to make in terms of the defaults here is turn off cluster FS. So that's a storage setting, which is a little bit more advanced, but for our purposes and for testing this all out, we'll just turn that off. And that's pretty much it. So we're just going to click on continue. And once you come to this screen, what you'll notice here on the right is that there's some instructions that are given. So there's 3 files that you'll need to download. And so let's choose the downloader files. So where would we like to install these? I'll just take this to my Equinix folder. And I will replace whatever I had there from the previous time I tested this. Let's also download the passphrase and the credentials. So you're going to download these 3 files. And once they're downloaded, you're going to move on to step 3 here, which is to copy these files onto the bare metal server. So we're going to go back into our SSH window and copy these files over. And once they've been copied, then you will run these 2 commands. So this command here will run a pre-flight check. So that's got the -t option. And then we will run, once that comes back with no warnings or errors, then we will run it without the -t option, which is step 4 here, and that will actually go ahead and start the Kubernetes provisioning process. Okay, so that puts in all the pieces that we need so that we get credentials to the server so that we can actually deploy the Kubernetes cluster. Okay, doing a secure copy of all the files into the temporary directory that we created. So that's uploading the files now. Okay, once they've been uploaded, let's increase the size of our window here. Let's SSH back into the window, into the server. So we're going to go onto the bare metal server, and we're going to run the commands that are given here on the right. Okay, so what we're going to do is cd to temp /Rafay. There's the 3 files. I'll just copy this command here. Go into here, paste. Okay, so we ran the command. The pre-flight check looks pretty good. Now there is this warning here about the storage. That's because we had disabled the cluster FS, which we're not going to use. So we're good to go there. What I'm going to do is now I'm going to actually run the actual installer versus the pre-flight check. So again, that's just the same command without the -t option. Rafay will now pick up that this server that we've run these commands on. Okay, and what's going to happen, as you'll see here, once this completes, is that this this node or this server will auto appear in the Rafay dashboard. Okay, so that node has now been provisioned and approved. So the next step here is to click on this configure button. Okay, so we're going to click on configure, and this is where we can specify whether we want this node to be a master node or a worker node. In this case, we're going to make it a master node. Okay, so we're going to click on that, and then you can select the main network interface here. In this case, Equinix will deploy each of the bare metal servers with 2 interfaces. So you can select any one. I'll just select the first one in the list, click on save. And the next step here is just to click on the provision button. So I'm going to click on provision. And what that's going to do now is, now that we have everything in place, this will go out and deploy the Kubernetes cluster on that particular node. Okay. Okay, so we're back, and the provisioning of the Kubernetes cluster onto the Equinix server was a success. So the way we confirm that here, if we look to the right, we see that the reliability check is a success, the control plane is healthy, and it's in a ready operational status. Okay, so looks like everything is good to go here. Just to confirm some of the information that we're seeing is that we deployed onto one node, and this is a master and a worker node that we deployed on. And you can see here that we deployed the Upstream Kubernetes and we deployed to the Dallas location. And we're giving you some high level information on the CPU and memory utilization here as well. Now, as a quick test, just to make sure that everything is a success, you can also leverage our zero trust kubectl access feature. So if I click on this button, I've got a terminal window that's now open onto that particular node, and I could say get nodes will show me all the nodes that have been configured as part of this cluster. We can also say show me all the pods -a. So there's all the pods that are running in that cluster. Okay, so let's close this off. And lastly, if you wanted to confirm this on the SSH window that you had open, so once again, just SSH into the system, just to make sure I'm the right system here. Yep. So if I was to run kubectl get pods -a, you can see here that we can also view all that same information that I was showing you through the Rafay console. Okay, so that brings this to an end. Hope you enjoyed this session. Thank you very much. Have a good day.